Today we're going to take a deep look at the V71 Editor, and despite the fact that it looks like it escaped from a previous decade, it's really very usable. This won't be an exhaustive survey of all the features, but I want to concentrate on the parts of the editor that will give you time savings and help you understand your V7151 or V31 better. As we go through this, I'm going to concentrate on three things. One, what's easier to do here than over on the module. Two, what's easier to understand here because you can see a lot of features all at once. And three, a few things the editor will let you do that you might not even realize are available. Before we do anything though, here's an important tip. Changes you make in the editor on your computer take effect immediately over on the module. But if you make a mess of a kit, you still have an escape hatch. Go to Option, Undo. The name is a little misleading because this isn't just undoing your last change. As long as you haven't switched kits, it restores the kit to the state it was in when you started editing it. And as far as I know, there is no just undo the last thing I've done. And later I'll show you some more of my favorite editor tricks, rearranging a set list just by dragging kits around, transferring a user sample straight from your computer to the V71 without touching the SD card, and dragging in kit images. So now that we know we can get ourselves out of trouble, let's divide and conquer this screen. Across the top is a standard menu bar, and we've already used it. Think of the screen as three areas. Across the top is the kit area. In the middle of that is the trigger selector, and everything below the tabs is the editing area. On the left side of the kit area, you can select other kits, change the name, image, and more. The center section lets you select triggers by clicking an icon. Rims can also be selected. The right side gives you a quick overview of the ambience and effects applied to the kit. In the editing area is a series of tabs that let you get to all the kit parameters. It changes what appears in the edit area down here, except for the editor setup tab, which lets you configure this editor. I first started using the editor because typing on the module is a pain. It's still a compelling reason to use the editor, so let's start there. When you want to rename a kit, use the pencil icon. I like to use the subname to either remind myself about features of a kit or where it came from, or if it's a kit for a particular song, I use it for song notes. I can also drag in a new image for the kit. Clicking on the images gives me a larger version and a few extra settings and the ability to delete the image. Another useful feature of this area is it can show you info about expansion packs. I'll make some changes to use some expansion packs. Not only do I get icons giving me feedback on which packs are used, clicking on the icons shows me where that pack is used and also works like a trigger selection so I can jump there and change if I want. If I set a tempo for the kit, that is also displayed. If a user sample is in use, that is also indicated. You can switch kits in two ways. The title of the kit is actually a menu. You can see all the kits or your favorites, and then you can move to a new kit. The arrow keys let you step through the kits, just like the plus and minus keys on your module. The level for this kit can be set by clicking and dragging up and down or using the mouse wheel. Clicking a pad here auditions it on the module at this velocity, and if you started something that won't stop, maybe a long sample, all sounds off is your panic button. The H&R Link area links and unlinks the head and rim. It also has a feature I've not found on the module itself. This menu lets you choose between default and balance. When you're in default mode, this is probably not too surprising. With linking off, you can separately change the volume of the rim and the head. Let me switch to default and turn linking back on. The volume difference is still there with linking on, but if I now change the head volume, the rim volume jumps to the same value. I'll go back to balance mode and turn off linking. I'll dial in 0 on the head and -3 on the rim. Now, just like default, when I turn on linking, the respective volumes are maintained. The difference is when I make a change. If I move the head up by +1 dB, the rim also goes up by +1 dB, so it changed from -3 to -2. The trigger selection area lets you select a trigger to work with by clicking its icon. With the instrument tab shown below, it can be pretty obvious how this works. Every pad that supports a head and rim shows separate controls for selecting those. When head and rim are linked, it won't matter which one you pick, but note that the interface still shows you a highlighting for the selected trigger. This applies to cymbals as well, and in the case of my ride, I get a rim, a bow, and the bell. This screen really shows the advantage of the editor over the module. You can see the layers, V-edit parameters, transient controls, and EQ all at the same time. And you can toggle layers on and off from the top or next to each layer. For each pad, you get a row for each layer. Clicking on the name gives you a multi-level menu for quickly selecting another instrument. When the head and rim are linked, the list shows the paired sound. If you turn H&R off, the list shows all the instruments. Most of the V-edit controls use the click and drag or mouse wheel control method. The list at the bottom also supports that, but you can also double click and directly type in a value. Right-clicking in a row shows a Reset V-edit option that will reset just the current row to the default parameters. The area to the right gives you control of the Transient and EQ settings, and the knobs can also be controlled with the mouse or by typing. Additionally, the graphs allow direct control. This is super convenient. When you hover, you'll see control points. Those points can be dragged left and right and up and down, and the corresponding control and its label change in real time. The mouse wheel can control a secondary function. For this EQ, it's the Q value. On a compressor, it can be the knee control. The next tab allows you to control pad level, EQ, and compression, as well as general mixing controls like level and balance and a few extras. The top section can be controlled by the mouse with both mechanisms. You just directly click and drag without selecting it first. When you let go, it does change the selection here and above in the kit view, and the area below updates to that pad's settings. The minimum volume that triggers a sound can be set with the control on the left. The bottom area doesn't change. There are also two controls hiding under kit volume that are worth pointing out because I haven't found them duplicated anywhere else in the editor. The closed pedal volume, which lets you increase or decrease the sound of your hi-hat when you close it with your foot. This is relative to the volume set for your hi-hat on the instrument screen. There is also a hi-hat open/close balance control. Positive values make your open hat louder than your closed hat. Negative values decrease the volume of your open hi-hat. By the way, on your module, use the mixer button and then the kit volume tab to get to the equivalent settings. The bottom of the screen gives you access to the pad level EQ and compression settings for the selected trigger. Sandwiched in the middle and to the right are Ambience and FX controls that are also available on other tabs, but they're included here for convenience. The Snare Settings tab allows you to fine-tune the cross-sticking features and control snare buzz, and control features for the strainer control if your pad has that. The next four tabs control all aspects of the ambience and bus effects control for the V71. I covered this area a lot in my signal flow episode. Here I just wanted to point out how convenient this editor is. These four ambience screens let you review the settings that require selecting among over 30 screens on your V71 module. And the Bus FX Routing tab covers a dozen more. The kit compression and EQ screens let you control just that. Again, you get the knob style controls and graphical control points. The mute group lets you specify that hitting one pad will let you mute one or more other pads. Most useful to me when I have a pad that triggers a loop. Kit MIDI lets you configure note values, gate timing, and channel assignments for the kit. The kit color assigns the color values for the dials and buttons on your module. Here you only see a bar of color change up by the kit name, but the effect is more noticeable if you glance over at your module. The Position Pedal tab lets you use the mouse or a mouse wheel to turn on or off position control for a pad and adjust the position area from inside -5 to outside +5. The Others tab, unlike the similarly labeled button on your module, only the kit tempo, switch, and value is here. I found the editor setup useful. I like to make all the aux pads look like pads, as you see here, and just put them in order over to the right. If you want to reposition things, it's easier to click the drag pad position and move things where you want them. The checkbox for Show All User Samples expands the list to show all 500 slots, even if they are empty. To date, I haven't found this too useful. I have 173 user samples loaded, and they all show without this selected, so I suggest leaving it off until you need it. and we'll come back to a really useful user sample feature in a minute. Let's revisit the menu bar. I find many things easier to do here than on the module, and at least one thing that can't be done at all on the module. I've seen forum complaints about the fact that you can't reset a kit on the V71 module, but you can do it here. Use the initialize menu, kit initialize, and your kit is back to the user default. No copying required. Speaking of copying kits can be more convenient. If I want to copy one preset to another, the copy kit option lets me point and click to the source and destination clicks rather than scrolling the dial. However, you don't get access to your SD card, so this isn't a replacement for the module. Clicking off the dialog is the same as clicking cancel. Backup works much like a backup on the module, except you're saving to your computer instead of the SD card. You can choose whether to include user samples. Just be aware that including them makes the backup substantially larger and slower. On my setup, it takes several minutes, and the progress bar can appear to stop for quite a while, but don't assume it has frozen. On the other hand, I do really want my assigned user samples in my backup, so I do leave this on and I deal with the delays. Along with naming kits, the feature I've used the most in the editor is the setlist setup menu. Select a bank on the left and then work with the area on the right. Add a new kit by clicking. And one thing you can't do on the module is easily rearrange the order. Here, click on the number and drag it to the desired location. Changes are immediate, and since this is above the level of the kit, using undo won't restore your setlist. Oh, I could kick myself for not knowing about this menu earlier. I can't tell you how many times I crafted user samples, put them on the SD card, ejected the SD card, walked over to the kit, inserted the SD card, and went through a bunch of key presses to get the user sample loaded, when what I could have done was leave the SD card alone and just used this menu. It's not obvious that this is supported, but open the user sample dialog, click on an unused slot. Now drag a sample file from your computer onto the dialog. That's it. Your new sample is in your module. No SD card shuffling, no menu navigation. If you want to fine-tune things, use the edit menu. Before we wrap up, let me show you how I actually use the editor when I'm trying to figure out a kit. When I'm trying to figure out what is causing a certain sound effect, it can really help to move to the Bus Effects Routing tab, select the Assign tab, and look at the upper right and the assignment area. A good example was the Stadium Rock Kick. It has significant reverb, and there are many ways to add reverb. This technique quickly lets me see that it's almost certainly coming from the room ambience. I can jump to the Room tab and see the place knob is set to Stadium Stage, and that likely accounts for it. You might also catch anomalies. Here the kit has the cymbals and aux inputs going to bus C, but there are no effects turned on. Might be a mistake or might be an experiment that didn't work out, so they turned off the effects and just didn't bother turning off the bus routing. I know I've done that. So that does it. It wasn't an exhaustive review of every feature of the editor, but I hope it was enough to increase your comfort level, help you find the features you need, and reach for it when it makes sense and can save you time. Edit in peace.